Good afternoon, you wee bastards, and welcome back to another War Thunder video with Koala. So today I want to talk about a somewhat controversial topic, and that is late tier 5 to tier 6 bomber aircraft, and why I personally believe they will never be added, and probably never should be. Since the announcement that tier 6 jets will be coming to War Thunder, players have asked about bombers at that tier, B-52s, Tu-95s. Will they be added? Would they work? Gaijin's answer to this is a resounding no. Actually, this was Gaijin's original reason for not wanting to do tier 6 aircraft at all. Bombers just wouldn't work, and the game is designed for all types of vehicles. For one, the gameplay of heavy strategic bombers in-game already is significantly flawed. The game just doesn't suit their style of play. B-52s and Tu-95s would be far worse. If left unchecked, these aircraft would easily win every game by bombing the airfield, nullifying any sort of skill-based combat that would otherwise decide the match's outcome. I'm just going to say it, bombers don't require skill. You spawn in, fly in a straight line, press spacebar, and then basically wait to die. If you want to be real saucy, you might even fly in a slightly different direction. Oh. For a bomber to win the match because they basically cannot be stopped might as well make the game single player, and that's not a good thing. But when they are intercepted before ending the game, well, think helicopters and ground forces when the jets come knocking. You're basically cannon fodder, and there's very little you can do about that. Now times that issue by 5, because not only do these aircraft frequently carry nuclear weapons or cruise missiles, and if not, carry in the neighbourhood of 50,000 pounds of conventional ordnance, but the intercepting aircraft now carry guided weaponry, and the heat seekers are soon to be supplemented by even more powerful, at least against bombers, radar-guided missiles like the AIM-7 Sparrow. These bombers won't just be cannon fodder, they'll be missile fodder, and a B-52 ain't going to be pulling 6 Gs and breaking lock. These aircraft are too cumbersome in combat to serve their role, and their MO in real life is to never be intercepted, and to have fighter escorts and missile countermeasures, chaff and flares and the like. In War Thunder, well, all you bomber pilots tell me the last time a random player decided to spend the match escorting you around and covering you, fending off enemy interceptors and allowing you to complete your objective. Probably never, at least in my experience, which I will admit is limited. I don't play bombers very much, but every time I see bombers in game, they're either running or space climbing, or dying, and they're never being protected by friendly fighters. Flares are a good point to bring up, but as I said, we're very likely to soon see radar-guided missiles which flares don't help you against, and either way, you've still got the enemy's cannons to deal with. That, and I'm not even sure the Tu-95 Bear carries flares, nor the earliest versions of the B-52. They may do, I'm not sure. If you know, please let me know in the comments. Later in tier 6, branching into potentially tier 7, we start to see aircraft like the Backfire Bomber, the Soviet Tu-22M, the Tu-160 Blackjack, British TSR-2, or the US B-58 Hustler, XB-70 Valkyrie, or A-5 Vigilante. These aircraft once again are fitted with missile defense systems, but their primary focus is on speed. Most of these aircraft have supercruise and are Mach 2 plus capable, making them very difficult to intercept, and on a map even as big as the new Afghanistan map, they could destroy the 3 bases and the airfield before everyone else had even reached takeoff speed. They're designed to penetrate so far into enemy airspace before being detected that by the time they are found, it's already too late. There are a couple of solutions to this that would allow them to be added into War Thunder. Number 1, have the bomber spawn point way further back than the airfield on maps that are much larger than even the new Afghanistan map. This would give the players a choice to either spawn in the air at speed but have longer to travel, or spawn on the airfield much closer to the target but have to gain speed from a standstill. Number 2, perhaps we could also have some extremely effective SAM sites around the airfield, meaning that bombers would have to wait for teammates to take out those SAM sites with air-to-ground missiles before being able to safely engage. This helps the bombers be capable of fulfilling their roles without being too game-breaking while they do so, although there's still the issue of A, what do they do while they're waiting to engage, if their teammates even bother taking out SAM sites to let them, which they probably wouldn't, and B, how high do they have to be to escape SAMs, because zoom climbing to 15,000 meters altitude would take less than a minute for these aircraft. Would they be safe up there? If so, then we haven't fixed any problems, and encouraging space climbing? Well, that might be the most cancerous collection of words that any War Thunder content creator has ever said out loud. Allow me to just go shoot myself real quick. There's also the issue of, yes, maybe they can end the game if SAMs are so effective that they can risk going anywhere near the airfields to bomb them, but at the same time, can you? Will the fighters be able to chase these things down to end the game themselves, or will players simply use them to climb up to 15,000 meters, accelerate to Mach 2, and then sit there for 15 minutes flying around in circles, waiting for the enemy team to just give up? This is something that many of the more Ebola-ridden players already try and do in B-29s, although with a 55,000 civil line repair cost you can barely even blame them. Basically, these aircraft create problems which aren't easily solved, and right now Gaijin's gone with the safe option of just not adding the things. But what about these smaller subsonic or transonic bombers, the IL-40, B-66 destroyer, the British V-bombers, two of which could be easily added already along with the American B-45 Tornado. The Vickers Valiant and the alien-looking Handley Page Victor both travelled at subsonic speeds and carry bomb loads similar to that of the Tu-4, making them easily balanced enough to add at 9.0 currently. The extremely beautiful Aston Martin Vulcan, the Avro Vulcan, could be added at maybe 9.3 with a top speed just under Mach 1 and a bomb load roughly equal to that of the Valiant, less than that of the Tu-4. The previously mentioned B-45 Tornado could also fit at 9.0 with less than 1000 kph top speed and roughly 22,000 pounds of bombs. These aircraft are pretty big but do have a chance of evading the relatively poorly performing AIM-9Bs or R3S. The IL-40 is another potential 9.0 bomber. This is still a relatively manoeuvrable jet with a top speed of just under 1000 kph, but it only carries just over 3,000 pounds of bombs. There are fighters at this tier that carry more than that. The Douglas B-66 destroyer on the other hand carries around 15,000 pounds and travels at roughly 1000 kph, and once again should be nice and manoeuvrable. There is the IL-54, similarly to the previously mentioned bombers in that it is big but probably still capable of avoiding missiles. This one has a top speed of roughly Mach 1 and a bomb load of 11,000 pounds. The next step up from here is the Tu-16 Badger and the B-47 Stratojet. The Tu-16 is predominantly an anti-ship missile carrier but can be loaded up with around 20,000 pounds of conventional bombs and travels at under 1100 kph, while the American counterpart, the Stratojet, travels at just under 1000 kph but can carry a higher bomb load. These planes are relatively slow though and are verging on the territory of being too big to avoid missiles. The last big bomber worth mentioning here is the Myasishchev M4 Molot or Hammer, known by NATO as the Bison, and I apologise profusely for probably butchering that Russian pronunciation. Please send me to Gulag, comrades. This aircraft is once again probably too big and unwieldy to evade any missiles. It might have a chance, and it has a top speed of under 1000 kph, but it does carry up to 50,000 pounds of bomb weight, so certainly a hard hitter if left alone to do the hitting. The thing with these bombers is that, well, they wouldn't be all that useful, would they? 1000 kph max speeds on aircraft that have little chance of evading missiles, if any, aren't going to be effective against F-100 Super Sabres and MiG-19 farmers. But put them down at say 8.7 so they don't have to fight them all the time, and they become incredibly overpowered, near impossible to counter in time to prevent them constantly ruining matches. The thing about bombers of this era was that they had to either be really big and powerful like the B-52 Stratofortress or Tu-95 Bear, or really fast like the A-5 Vigilante or Tu-160. Anything else? Well, they started losing out to the fighter bombers or strike fighters of the era, like for example the F-105 Thunder Chief, a fighter through and through, but capable of carrying as much of a bomb load as many of these aircraft. The Blackburn Buccaneer is more of an attacker than a bomber despite having no guns, and many other aircraft that could be added fill this role too. The American F-111 might have served very much in a strategic bomber role, but at its heart it's a fighter and interceptor that just happens to have a very destructive bombing capability, and the same goes for the Panavia Tornado. The A4, A6, A7 or A10, the Soviet Su-25 Frogfoot, French Mirage variants designed for ground attack role, the AMX International, none of these are bombers. It's quite funny, there really are very few bombers between the Mach 1 and Mach 2 range. What about the B-2 Spirit, one of the most recognisable modern bomber aircraft? Well, how does sub-Mach 1 at all altitudes and a battle rating of probably 10.0 sound? It'll face Mach 2 capable fighters, won't be able to evade even our current missiles without ripping its wings off, and the Hunter could catch it in a straight line. It does carry almost 50,000 pounds of bomb load, but honestly this is another aircraft with the same problems we've already gone over. Same shit, different toilet. This is really unfortunate though, as this plane is extremely iconic and is a fantastic asset to the US Air Force in real life. I'm definitely not talking smack about any of the aircraft in real life here. Please no one be offended. There is also the issue of not every nation having aircraft that could extend their bomber trees down into late tier 5 and tier 6 at all. Japan, Italy, Germany and France literally do not make or even use bomber aircraft, opting instead for attackers and strike fighters like the Dornier Alpha Jet or variants of the Dassault Mirage. All up, tier 6 jets would be a mess. Only 3 nations could even get them, only the US and USSR getting any good ones in the long term, with the UK really falling off outside the Vulcan, unless the hypersonic TSR-2 were added later. Although that thing could outspeed a Mirage 5 and they'd either break the game or be completely useless, which is honestly somewhat realistic. These aircraft aren't meant to be balanced in real life, they're meant to destroy everything they come within a continent of, and if they're targeted before being able to do that, then they'd better pray that there are fighters in the vicinity or they're going down. And you know what they say, you won't get out, not when it dives at 300 knots. I think we can count on attackers like the A-10 Warthog, Su-25 Frogfoot, AMX International, Fallen Gnat, and all those other types of aircraft, and even they will be a struggle to give to every nation. Japan. These tier 6 attackers will be the way to go for ground pounding, along with some very nice strike fighters like the previously mentioned F-105 Thunderchief. Bombers? Well, Gaijin said an outright no, and for once I agree completely. Unless the game has changed drastically, strategic bombers like the Tu-95 and B-52 just wouldn't work, and neither would Mach 2 Plus tactical bombers like the Tu-160 or TSR-2. There are a grand total of 2 supersonic bombers that might work, however. You may notice that I left out some of the most iconic modern bomber aircraft of all, the US Rockwell B-1B Lancer and the Soviet counterpart, the Tu-22 Blinder. The B-1 Lancer travels at around Mach 1.2 in altitude and just below Mach 1 at sea level, while the Blinder, from which the Tu-22M backfire was later developed, can travel at a higher Mach 1.4. The Tu-22 Blinder is honestly fair game for 10.0 currently, but the Lancer? Well, speed won't be the issue with this thing. Ordnance will. This aircraft carries one of the biggest ordnance loadouts of any bomber ever designed. 75,000 pounds of bombs. America. This aircraft might not be game-breakingly fast, actually the preceding B-1A Lancer was significantly faster, but with that kind of payload it would completely ruin any game it was in, be that air battles, ground forces, or even enduring confrontations. The only way to balance that ordnance loadout would be to put it at a battle rating like 12.0, where the fighters at the same tier would travel at more than twice the speed, and that would render whatever payload it was carrying completely useless, as you'd never get to actually drop it. So there you have it lads, that is my personal take on the possibility, or should I say impossibility, of tier 6 bomber aircraft ever being added to War Thunder. Without significant changes to the game, none of these aircraft would really work at all. They'd either be too overpowered or too pointless, and I think they could only harm the game. Gaijin definitely shouldn't spend development time on them right now, there's plenty more else to work on first. Everything else, fighter bombers, multi-role fighters and attackers, they're fair game, but I seriously doubt that tier 6 bombers will ever make it. This just isn't the game for them. Of course, Gaijin might one day pull a surprise on us and the title of this video will end up like my Why There Will Never Be Tier 6 Jets video, but as with that one, well, it's meant to be a bit edgy. I might be proven wrong in 2 years' time. This time, however, I doubt it. Of course, any of the information presented in this video could contain some errors. Most of the research was done quite quickly, I was running out of time, so if you do know of any misinformation, be sure to let me know in the comment section below and I'll pin it, but for now, that's going to do us for this video. I hope you lads have enjoyed and that you leave a like if you have, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that bell icon, join the 360 squad, and come follow me on social media at the links in the video description below. Make sure you leave your thoughts on this video down in the comment section, I'd love to have some discussion with you lads. Come join the koala tree if you'd like to discuss further, or just come hang out. And always remember lads, keep your bagpipes to hand, keep your kilt on, and I shall see you next video. I say a wee thank you to these lads for supporting me on Patreon. DA261, Latvian Wolf, Gisli Gardarson, and Dark Recon. You lads are bra. If you wish to join them, come check out the link in the description below.